Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today is going to be kind of an unboxing of the Z1 Disco box for the 300ZX. I've kind of already gone through everything to familiarize myself with what it all comes with and kind of the quality. So there's just some stuff I'd like to show you guys. Yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So I've got a 93 NA that I bought several years ago, and I've wrapped up a twin turbo conversion about 2 years ago, and the car drives great. Long story short, it kind of snowballed, and I ended up building a car a little bit stronger than I initially intended. And since then, I need to make some more adjustments to help compensate to make a little bit more power, but more importantly, a little bit more reliably and accurately, especially when it comes to airflow. So many of you guys know there was a great product years ago by Sealan, which was a dual mass airflow sensor translator that no longer exists. I don't know if it was due to COVID and they just no longer could produce them or whatnot, but fortunately Z1 has come up with their solution and they call it the Disco box. That's what I have here. So I'm going to start kind of pulling out the parts and kind of note some of the things that I think are unique or maybe different from prior products and just kind of share that with you. And then the goal is to get this on the vehicle, test it out, and kind of report back. Let's kind of jump in real quick. So the first things, whenever I open the box, are the elbow, the silicone elbows. So these will actually attach to the OEM piping underneath the nose panel, kind of in this orientation, and the mass airflow sensors will slide in here, and the air filters will be below. So when you pop the nose panel, it will be kind of sitting up in this orientation. I chose red. It just looks a little bit more aggressive as opposed to black or blue. Most of the silicone on my vehicle is black, but this setup looks really cool underneath the nose panel. It looks very aggressive, so I thought red would be a little more aggressive looking as well and kind of tie it in. And when you're trying to make more power and go faster, you can be a little flashy, and that's okay. So that's why I went with red. These are very well built. They have a lot of weight to them. Has a Z1 decal there right where you have to see it. You can't really orient it any other way. But anywho, so I'll slide these over here. Let's see. I didn't have a spare MAF, so Z1 gives you the option of purchasing another one. This is the OEM N62 MAF. Brand new. Looks great. So if I'm not mistaken, the single MAF airflow sensor setup is actually just fine if you're making under 450 wheel horsepower. But once you're making at or over 450 wheel, you really need to be able to more accurately meter the air, and that's where a dual mass airflow sensor setup is beneficial. So my current setup, I have GT255-4Rs pictured here. These are the quote zero turbos that Concept Z provides, and they're rated for up to 550 horsepower. I don't think I'm anywhere near that, but I should be, I would say, just shy of 500 at the moment. So clearly exceeding what the single mass airflow sensor setup can accurately meter. So that's why we're doing this. These are the filter brackets. Many of you who have the Jim Wolf pop chargers have seen that very similar aluminum bracket. This looks almost identical. I'm going back from memory. This may be a little bit more aggressive or a deeper slope, maybe. I haven't taken my Jim Wolf pop charger apart since I installed it a while ago. It certainly feels much heavier than the Jim Wolf pop charger bracket. I could be wrong, but these have a lot of weight to them. Despite that, they look very well made. They're robust for sure. And it just comes with some hardware. But that was one thing that was certainly jumped out, that these feel heavy when compared to the Jim Wolf. bracket. If weight is an issue for you, maybe consider that, but I really don't think if you're making that kind of power, these are going to make much of a difference. But just as a side note, they look great. Alrighty. Alright, so here's the second one. Alrighty. Comes with 4 couplers, 2 larger, 2 smaller. These go to the elbows. So here is Z1's filter. You get one that's already open. Spare you the noise of the plastic because it is incredibly loud. So these look identical to the Jim Wolf Technology filters. The one thing I did notice on these that are a little bit different, I don't really think it's a pro or a con really, but the rubber is much more elastic or rubbery. It's much softer. I remember when I was installing a Jim Wolf pop charger a long time ago, it just felt a little bit more rigid. So perhaps this might seal a little better against the bracket. I don't think Jim Wolf pop chargers had any issue with that anyway, but just a thought. But they look like they're the exact same size and shape. They're blue in color, just like the Jim Wolf pop chargers. Not that really changes anything. But yeah, it looks exactly the same. Just maybe a little bit softer rubber material. Also comes with a hose clamp to secure that to the aluminum brackets. And obviously we'll need 2 filters since we're running 2 airflow, mass airflow sensors. Right. All right, so here is the disco box itself. I think Z1 is using this kind of box for a lot of their upgrades for many of the vehicles they service and provide parts for. This one, and I could be wrong, feels a little bit different. It feels more rubbery. I had a friend who Z1 selected to be a part of their beta program when they were testing these with select customers who could give them some accurate feedback. And he let me borrow it for a couple weeks to put on my vehicle and test it out. Fortunately, while we were testing it, we found my car was actually running very lean, and I had an issue with my fuel pressure regulator and damper. So I was fortunate for that. But anyways, this feels more rubbery. It's very rigid, but the outer texture is more rubbery or filmy, I guess if that's the right term for it. Not that that changes anything. But anyways, in the beta program, this was actually mounted with a 3D printed bracket that goes underneath the nose panel. I think I've read or heard where they were having some problems with maybe some waterproofing issues. And I think Z1 decided, instead of putting this underneath the nose panel like the Sealand did, they pushed it back in the engine bay near the brake master cylinder. So it's kind of tucked towards the back of the engine bay where water will not get to it. So maybe instead of ditching this altogether, this setup, they just simply moved it to the back. Another reason they could have done that, not that it's a big deal, is when you pop the hood, this sits kind of high, if I remember right from the photos, and it's great advertising for Z1. It just kind of sits up kind of high, almost at the level of the plenum, maybe a hair taller. So if you're on the driver's side of the engine bay, it's one of the first things you see. But anywho, this seems very well quality. Your indicator LEDs will be here if you have like a fault somewhere or if everything's good. But yeah, this looks great. This is the bracket I was telling you guys about. This is what bolts down to the engine bay towards the back near the clutch master cylinder and brake master cylinder. This looks like this bolts to the top of it. But again, in the beta program that I got to test, this was not how the setup was. This is incredibly light. It's aluminum, it's powder coated. It looks well made. You're not gonna have to worry about rust. Not that you'd get rust back there anyways. Comes with pretty lengthy wiring and lumen. these will actually be underneath the nose panel back here, and this will run all the way across the engine back towards the master cylinder. In my opinion, I think that's kind of a busy look in the engine bay. I'm not really crazy about that, so I may, with the help of a friend, design a bracket and have it 3D printed, maybe similarly to the way the beta program one was, and put that somewhere, maybe underneath the nose panel to hide all the wiring. I really like a clean OEM look in the engine bay, despite my car being nowhere near that. It does look good when the engine's popped. It doesn't look like you've done a whole lot to it. It just looks clean. I think it has a great look to it, the OEM look. So, but these brackets look very high quality. They've got the waterproofing gasket down in there. The lumen seems pretty robust. Yeah, all the hardware looks great. Shouldn't be foresee any issues with that. They really make great products. I have Z1's EFI wiring harness on my vehicle, and I was blown away at the quality, so I would expect nothing less with this. Lastly, they send you some hardware to help support the weight of the air filters themselves in the brackets, so they're not just kind of dangling. And currently my stuff, it kind of just dangles where the T piping is underneath the nose piece, so the filter just kind of pops around. I can tell these are a little bit heavier, these aluminum filter brackets, so it's going to bounce a little bit more. Maybe with time that would fatigue some parts, and maybe it come loose, maybe, you know, have an air leak, or maybe they come loose and fall off. I doubt that, but anyways, they supply aluminum brackets, very light. These will keep it from bouncing around and will secure the filter brackets underneath the nose panel, so that they're not just jumping around. And Z1 typically will send you some decals for your vehicle. I'm not sure what color these are. Well, let's see. But also, this is a pretty straightforward install. I think it's almost intuitive. If you've worked on these cars enough, you probably don't need an installation vehicle. However, they do send you this for install, a little QR code. It'll direct you straight to the installation manual for this. One thing that is important to note, and you'll know this if you purchase this product and you use the QR code, but you kind of have to pull the top of this off, and there's like a little pod you can adjust if you were running a single setup or a dual setup from your mass airflow sensor from a setup standpoint. For example, my ECU is the OEM ECU, but I have an upgraded EEPROM chip from Concept Z, and it was intended for a single mass airflow sensor setup because that was my goal. I wanted a fun, quick, reliable car, and I had no intention of making big power. However, I had my OEM turbos rebuilt by a certified Garrett dealer in town, and when I got the turbos back, they looked great. But after about 15 to 20 miles in break-in, I was still seeing some blue smoke in my exhaust. And after a couple of months of hunting things down, the turbo seals and the CHRAs had gone, and I was just burning oil. So I found these, got a great deal on these zero turbos from Concept Z. So now I'm making more power. I just need to be able to accurately meter more air to make it more reliable and just more accurate overall. But yeah, overall, this is it looks like a really good setup. I'm really pleased with the quality of the parts. Everything feels very solid. I don't think there's going to be any issues with water getting into this back where Z1 recommends placing it. I think I'm probably going to put this back underneath the nose panel just because I like a less cluttered engine bay. I may show you guys the engine bay currently. It looks mainly OEM, but I've gotten rid of some things that were redundant and causing issues. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or concerns or just comments, feel free to leave them below. I'll try to get back to you whenever I can. I will say I do plan to make an install video, probably not with a whole lot of commentary, um, just installing it and kind of showing you how I've done things. If I end up making a custom 3D printed bracket, perhaps we can make several of those and make them available to you if you're interested, just kind of throwing that out there. And then I will surely make a video kind of driving around town, telling you how I think the car feels. When I was running the beta program, disco box on the vehicle, several things stood out. The car was definitely not running out of breath higher end when I was driving it. The turbos were much louder. You could hear them spool much more clearly. And I have aftermarket recirculating valves on my car. I don't have the OEM ones, and I don't have blow-offs. But the recirculating valves that I have almost sounded like blow-off valves. They were clearly, the car was bringing in much more air and moving it. So we're really excited about getting this on the car. I'm probably going to go out to the garage now and start tearing things down to where I can get this in. But again, if you have any questions, concerns, leave them down below. I'll try to get back to you. But thanks for giving me some of your time, and I'll be making a new video here shortly. Take care.